cousin mentioned that you can buy these missile bases. We flew up to Plattsburgh in '91. There was a road we went down, which was the old military road. And when we got to the end, it was just a concrete stairwell coming out of the ground, right behind that wall. This is the surface home. As you see, it's a really open floor plan, kind of a lodge type of look. Views in every direction, so it's really beautiful. This is the entrance. We have a keypad here, and this enters the downstairs. You're seeing a complete restoration of something that was underwater for 30 years. This little thing here had purpose. They'd have a special code. They'd put it through here, they'd read the code, and if it was the right code, then this door would open. If it wasn't, they would be held in here for interrogation. That was what they did back then. This is the 2,000-pound doors, and you can see how they're built. It was meant to take a direct nuclear hit. Shall we? And now we're entering the stairwell, which goes to what we call the Launch Control Center. We built a home within a home. You'll see that in a minute. So let's just go in and take a look. This is the upstairs Launch Control Center. We've built this for living up here. My partner, who has a lot of kids now, he comes down here, and this is truly the ultimate man cave. He'll sleep down here, he'll get his work done, and it's very efficient for him. It's very quiet. Walk down through, we had to cut through the steel, by the way, to make these. My cousin worked for 3 years with crews of college kids and manually cleaned this place. This room here used to have drywall, and after a while, everything just became sludge and muck. You're going to go through a 50-foot tunnel, which goes to the silo tube. You'll be entering at level 2, which is 40 feet below the Earth's surface. You're walking into a cylindrical structure, which is 52-foot diameter, 185 feet deep, and within that is a 7-level skyscraper suspended by 4 huge 60-foot long shock systems. As I mentioned earlier, you have a steel skyscraper that's sitting here in place. Right over here, you'll see one of the workstations that went around the missile. You see a little shroud on the top that represents the curvature of that part of the missile that was there. You'll see 2 I-beams going across, and those I-beams were there for the door shutting procedure. The whole purpose of this was to store a missile. It's not like you can go to the bank and get a construction loan for building a missile base home. We're actually right in the state park. So after 3 years of battling back and forth with the red tape and the bureaucratic agencies we had to go through, we became a private airport subdivision with 12 approved lots. People really enjoy it up here. It gets them away from the fast lifestyle. It lets you assume a different energy.
Hey, it's Nick from Nuclear Bunker Living. So we have a really cool surprise over here. We've just added an Atlas F to the other nuclear bunker portfolio. The Evolution crew is going to have a lot of fun here, Bruce. Oh, he's going forward. The console.
And it goes around.
Majesty of an Atlas F silo. Dude, I just can't stop looking at this.
This is the Titan Intercontinental Ballistic Missile. Its mission, deliver a payload to a designated spot on the Earth's surface some 5,500 nautical miles away. Its warhead could level an entire city.
Dude, it's getting very somewhat Breaking Badish.
Yeah. We're getting there. We're getting there. I made sure I got the no weapons allowed in the premises sign up there.
And it's time for a road trip. We are heading off to the Atlas F with my good buddy Bruce Francisco, the original Mr. OG of the Atlas Fs, and we are off to see this new baby. Hey, it's Nick from Nuclear Bunker Living. So we have a really cool surprise over here. So we've just added an Atlas F to the other nuclear bunker portfolio. It's a smoking hot Atlas F, amazing location, bone dry, phenomenal space, utility and infrastructure over here. So we're going to get started very, very soon over here. In fact, this particular Atlas F, let me tell you, it's going to be linked to a private airport. So you can land a jet, taxi into the facility, and then straight to the other penthouses and what have you too. So a lot of really cool things. Plus, it's going to be the only Atlas F in the country that is also a hybrid Titan 1. Why? Because this particular Atlas F is going to also have up to 6 domes. We're talking about 130 foot across, 55 foot high, similar to the other power dome in a Titan 1. So it's going to be like an Atlas F / Titan 1 hybrid facility. So get ready. We're going to start revamping, renovating, invigorating. This is an Atlas F now added to the portfolio. So check this out.
Yeah, this is great. It's manganese, man. Look at this. You can see what they broke in. Now storage, it makes cut away through. It's the solid door down with the pressure going this way. Yeah. That is, see that on the hinges. Unbelievable. No one over here?
Not bad.
Right.
Right.
Look at that. After 57 years. Perfect. Absolutely perfect.
Not really.
Yeah. You can see the grooves over here. This should be lifted up. And they'll lock in there.
Yeah.
Yep. And the key, so explain the key, right?
Yeah.
So the key was on the outside. You got the close, and where's the open position? Is it closed?
Detection room. Door here.
Yeah, this was the entrapment area.
Paper would be burnt there.
You'll be escorted outside.
Yeah.
Is that a code for somebody? Cute FTP? Is that the Wi-Fi code?
That's it.
Yeah.
The entrapment area?
We use all the conduits.
Yeah, all the lighting.
That's where we find it.
Let's work our way to the RCC.
Okay. That's the bench house?
The canopy over here.
Yeah. Bench house? Look at that.
Yep. There's the egress over here. The latch, we'll see, they would pull it, and that sand and gravel come down over here. And the guys would just egress over and just duck over it.
I go a little bit higher, but use that as a candle holder.
Yeah. Impressive.
All right, you got the steel here?
Yep.
All the way around to the end.
That's solid, huh?
Hey. See where the mounts were?
Yep.
To there?
Nice.
The big shocks?
The springs.
4 of them.
Let's go this way.
That's the bench shaft.
Yep.
The other candy cane?
Yep.
The one next to
That's the second one.
The other one.
The access portal.
This tile is very, very familiar to the other Titan 1.
Absolutely. Very characteristic.
Yeah, in the second level, the control dome.
Asbestos for sure.
Yeah, well, the adhesive element is asbestos,
Yeah.
a very small percentage of it. But I recognize this tile.
Government issue.
Yep, government issued.
That utilitarian green color, you know, that puke lime, whatever you want to call it. What's the color of it? What's the description for it?
Description for what?
For the actual color. I mean, you got that puke green.
I don't know. Some sort of military code we're not familiar
Yeah. I mean, even the other Titan 2 is the same color scheme once again. They must have had a pretty good
They
deal.
carried over the excess.
Yeah.
You know, half-inch strong.
Demolition crew's gonna have a lot of fun here, Bruce.
Yeah.
Little cleanup.
A little bit of asbestos, we noticed.
Mask up well and suit up well. And
Yeah, run a negative air pressure machine for a couple of days. And then get the other demolition crew here. Within 10 days, it should be pretty much gutted out.
And this little pivot based on the elevation of the floor because they lift it up.
Yep.
Right here, that'll just lift right up and down the pivot.
So how can we raise this floor, do you think?
Yeah, right now it's on the bottom, but typically when it was kind of like pretty level. Really.
Yep.
No PVC there. Literally, when we run you walk all the way around, and I extended the floor out so you could walk on that. And this is where we had our fiber optic.
Yep.
And it would run through all around to the glass block.
Let's go downstairs, little.
This is where the septic was, by the way.
Yep.
that was the septic tank.
It'll pump out through a 4-inch pipe, straight through, all the way up, and then horizontally to an 1,800 gallon septic.
Should we illuminate the business?
You're listening to WBRFM, real radio for real people.
Business end. These were the other miscellaneous where there was the other habitation, rec hall, kitchen.
Right? Yeah, pretty bright.
You're listening to IRN.
The Internet Radio Network.
Yeah, the Lord. The console.
You know, the vent
It's mine. It doesn't have any controls, but it's in fairly good shape. Bit of a dent here. Got the old rotary here, the dial. That's a perfect desk space, isn't it? A nice. Yeah. That's in really good condition. Yeah. What's that? There's asbestos in the corners there. Yeah. That's all fiberglass here.
Look, and then you got air conditioning, that's the range.
Yeah.
6481.
Look at the condition of this. Yeah. It's pretty good, isn't it? Yeah, the G41.
Yeah.
Yep. A plenty of VRC. With the air exhaust here?
For the internal air conditioning system, yeah.
Paper tracks,
Yep.
paper trays.
These all the way down. It's great utility space. Got some odd hosing down the bottom here. So Bruce, once you remove the tile over here, did you run, what sort of tiling did you do? Did you run like travertine or what?
Everything, we cleaned it, power washed it, dried it, and then we put plastic down.
Plastic down?
And then we went 2x6.
Yep.
And we put insulation down, and then we let the air channel so it could vent.
Yep. And well,
And then out to the sides.
what sort of tiling did you use? What sort of
We use carpet and wood flooring.
Really?
Yeah. Because once you have a 2x6, 16 on center, and then we make sure we get enough venting. And then, like I said, we extend it out so we could actually go out and walk on the outer.
I was going to say, how far out did you go?
We ran the flooring all the way out so we could walk around.
Okay, and you
We
left.
didn't touch the wall.
How much void did you have? Did you leave like maybe like a couple of inches from the shelf?
Yeah, a couple inches, but we could walk around. Because this was our basement in a way.
Did you put any like black neoprene rubber on the sides or something?
No, we didn't need to. We wanted to breathe.
Okay,
We
so
wanted air to flow.
okay, river to go. That desk looks great. Look at that. Very impressive. That's a good, decent size, isn't it?
Really is.
But instead of looking at a screen back then, they were looking at dials that lit or didn't light. Green, red, or yellow, probably.
Be incredibly proud to be behind that desk, right?
Yeah.
The level of accountability,
Yeah,
responsibility, you know.
A
A young 21, 22-year-old Miss Celia, the fate of the Western world lies in.
And when they're setting up the coordinates, where it's going to go according to the flight plan, they didn't know where that was.
Yeah.
They just had to enter the information.
I think they had like 3 options, right? In the computer, there was like 3 targets that were loaded. And I imagine it was either St. Petersburg, Moscow, East Germany, or even Havana, Cuba, for example. Well, definitely there was Havana during the missile crisis of 62. I love the graffiti, 06, we got 989 there. Got a time capsule for these. Let's head down the cableway, make our way to the silo.
Great.
And the sump pump?
The septic. Shipping holding tank.
Diablos like a soundtrack. What could current playback? 57 Chevy with the radio on. It's a sad song that goes on and on. It's your fugitive from time. Radio Havana. Fugitive from time. Radio Havana. A friend just said, gotta make a choice. He's got the lead, the skin, and the velvet voice. Oh, the New York Times read that it ain't over yet. Oh, you can't forget, 'cause you never forget. It's your fugitive from time. Radio Havana. Fugitive from time. Radio Havana. Yeah, I got it right. Yeah, I got it right. Going down tonight. Going down tonight. Oh, where'd you go? Oh, where'd you go? Going down below. Going down below. Well, that blows like a soundtrack. Yeah, a concurrent playback. Checking 57 Chevy, get the radio on. It's a sad song. It goes on and on.
Buenas tardes, señoras y señores. Bienvenidos a Radio Habana. Hoy en nuestro programa desde Estados Unidos le damos la bienvenida a la banda de punk rock de mayor éxito, Rancid.
Yeah, I got it right. Yeah, I got it right. Going down tonight. Going down tonight. Yeah, where'd you go? Yeah, where'd you go? Going down below. Going down below. It's a fugitive from time. Radio Havana. 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 Fugitive from time. Radio Havana.
Located in Southeast Asia, Vietnam extends its territory along the east coast of the Indo-Chinese Peninsula. This tropical peninsula is home to an immense diversity of flora and fauna, which Vietnam shares with its neighbors of Cambodia, Laos, and China. But the uniqueness of Vietnam is linked to its relationship with water, perfectly represented by the legendary Mekong River and more than 2,000 miles of coast, as well as an incredible system of underground rivers. Are you ready to enjoy the wonders that await you in this tiny but incredible place? Here are the 10 best places to visit in Vietnam. Number 1. The Mekong River Delta. Let's start this tour through some of Vietnam's natural wonders. The Mekong River is the world's 8th longest river and goes through 5 countries before ending its course on Vietnam's far south. It's a popular place to visit for those who stay in Ho Chi Minh City for some days. This region is home to unique ecosystems, as well as diverse communities, unlike anywhere else in the world. Many local and regional products are produced here, so it's the ideal place to taste new foods unknown to many of its visitors. This river displays amazing pictures and colorful images everywhere, thanks to this magnificent river delta. Number 2. The Phong Ye Ke Bang National Park. Moving on to our following location, the Phong Ye Ke Bang National Park will leave you speechless. A national park placed in the central northern region, this UNESCO World Heritage Site's main attraction consists of its cave systems that extend for an outstanding 126 kilometers. It's the largest cave system in the world, and it's home to several endemic species of plants, animals, and fungi, nowhere else to be found in the world. Inside the caves and grottos run numerous rivers and water streams, many of them navigable. There can also be found lots of interconnected passageways. It's the perfect place to visit for adventurous explorers. Number 3. Ha Long Bay. The most visited and popular place in Vietnam, also awarded as a UNESCO World Heritage Site, the Ha Long Bay is located at the northeast side of Vietnam, near Ha Long City.
Hiroshima, Japan, is known around the world for being an event more than an actual place. On the 6th of August 1945, the city was completely destroyed. The resulting radiation was so deadly that the survivors and their families still suffer from increased cancer rates to this day.
Visiting the Peace Park and the museum here, it's a pretty sobering experience. You learn about events like this from a school textbook or from films, but to actually be here and see where it happened, and it's pretty eye-opening.
Before our trip, somebody I know asked me, is Hiroshima even safe to visit? And it's a surprisingly popular question online as well. Now, I'm sitting here editing this video right now, so obviously it is safe. But the city itself is still not what I expected. Over 70 years after the disaster, a lot has changed here.
When you sit in that park and you look outwards and you see beautiful trees and nature, you see a working tram system, you see tall skyscrapers all around you, you see people going to work, you see restaurants. You know, in under 100 years, this place has turned from literal rubble into a living and breathing city that is, you know, it's vibrant, it's exciting, it's friendly. There's a lot going on. I think the message to take away from Hiroshima is, yes, you should always remember the past, but this is a city looking towards the future as well.
Whether that's through technology, the food scene, craft breweries, their awesome baseball team, and their super passionate fans. Rooftop bars with a unique twist.
You can slide all the way down.
What you don't hear enough about is just how much fun it is to explore Hiroshima and the surrounding area.
It's a testament to the people here that within days of the bomb dropping, they were rebuilding their homes, they were rebuilding their shops, they were clearing the tram tracks of rubble, and they wanted to get going again. And you can still feel that today. You can feel that spirit here. And it's very inspiring.
There's a little story that I want to finish this film with, and it's about how these paper cranes became a symbol of the city. Sadako Sasaki was 2 years old when the atomic bomb exploded above Hiroshima. Miraculously, she survived with almost no injuries. But 10 years later, when she turned 12 years old, Sadako was diagnosed with leukemia and given only a year to live. In hospital, she started folding paper cranes. She gave herself a goal of making 1,000 of them before she died. It's not clear whether she hit her goal, but today, the people of Hiroshima still make them, and they encourage visitors to do the same. It's become recognized as a symbol of peace and determination, but it also carries a warning that even though Hiroshima is a forward-thinking city, completely reborn, something like this can never happen again.
Infamously known for being the second and final city to be attacked with an atomic bomb, Nagasaki has a deep history. It's estimated that 70,000 people were killed in Nagasaki. Countless people died instantly. Many more were left with side effects from radiation or burns from the explosion. The city burnt for hours, and eventually, a large area was reduced to nothing. When you visit Nagasaki, you can still see some of the effects, but now you'll be surrounded by a new and bustling city.
Take this for example. Here is a Torii gate, now with just one leg, which is not too far from the hypercenter. Even this was partially destroyed, but one leg still remains as a testament to the perseverance of Nagasaki City.
If you're visiting Nagasaki, the first place you might want to stop at is the Atomic Bomb Museum and the Peace Park. You're able to read testimonies from survivors and visit the hypocenter of the bomb. It's the best way to get a feel for the city and its history. A lot of visitors might just stop there, but there's so much more to Nagasaki than that. The city has rebuilt, and even better, created its own unique culture. For a long time, Nagasaki was the only Japanese port open to the rest of the world. As a result, the city is uniquely influenced by settlers from many different countries. Trams mixed with European buildings, right next to Chinese markets. We were determined to explore what the Nagasaki of now has to offer. Our first stop was the city's Chinatown.
We never expected Nagasaki to have such unique culture, but apparently this Chinatown is only one of 3 Chinatowns in all of Japan. And we've also heard that this one is particularly good for street food. So let's go and try some out. Alright, we got 2 different kinds of street food. The first one is kapuniman, which is braised pork in kind of like a bun. Looks really delicious. And then the second one we got is goma dango, which is dango with sesame on the outside. Both of them look incredible. Let's try the dango first. It kind of tastes like, do you remember those sesame snaps we had as kids? Tastes like that, if you know that. Oh, that one's really good. This one is probably what I was most excited for though. Oh, that pork is so good.
There's not too many other places in Japan where you'll find this unique mix of cultures. Another dish that should be high on your list is Nagasaki's speciality, champon. Despite looking like ramen, this noodle soup is actually based on Chinese cuisine and is a must-try. Moving on from Chinatown though, our next stop was to see the old European area of Nagasaki City.
It's kind of amazing that we were just in Chinatown and then maybe 600 meters away is this quaint little European town. We're walking up Dutch Slope now, which is part of the old western neighborhood in Nagasaki. It's called Dutch Slope because a lot of Dutch people were the ones who were trading in Nagasaki about 300 years ago. And Japanese people in Nagasaki kind of just associated western people just with Dutch people.
Some parts of Nagasaki weren't badly damaged from the bomb because of the surrounding mountains that contained the blast in one area, so you're still able to see a lot of Nagasaki's older history. Taking advantage of those mountains now is one onsen where you can soak in the bath while looking out over the entire city.
Fukuno-yu Onsen is honestly one of the best onsens that we've been to in Japan so far. From the outdoor baths, you can sit and look out over the whole of Nagasaki. It's an absolutely beautiful view.
And you know what, like for 800 yen, I think it's totally reasonably priced. We've been to other onsens for the same price, but you don't get this like incredible view. So I definitely recommend it. Nagasaki has easily been one of our favourite cities on our van trip around Japan. Its tragic history draws you in, but its other attractions make you want to stay for at least a few days. Nagasaki is a bit out of the way from the usual hotspots in Japan, but in our opinion, this peaceful city is well worth your time. Make sure you hit subscribe so you don't miss our next videos, and we'll see you in the next one.
Before we start our visit to Chernobyl, don't forget to subscribe to our channel and ring the bell to get notified about the latest videos. On April 26, 1986, a safety test gone wrong led to an explosion in reactor number 4 at the Chernobyl nuclear power plant in Pripyat, in USSR. Several factors then conspired to result in a widespread scattering of over 100 radioactive elements into the surrounding towns and cities. In the hours, days, and weeks after the explosion, radioactive elements including plutonium, iodine, strontium, and cesium contaminated a region of roughly 150,000 square kilometers in Belarus, Russia, and Ukraine. Carried by the wind, these elements were later detected as far away as Sweden and Finland and across the northern hemisphere. The region is expected to remain uninhabitable for thousands of years. Pripyat was built in 1970 and was by all accounts a decent place to live, despite the autocratic Soviet rule. After the disaster, the entire population of Pripyat, home to about 50,000 people, was evacuated. Their hasty exit left a town that today appears frozen in time. In the absence of the majority of the humans that once populated the city, Chernobyl has also become somewhat of a wildlife sanctuary. Animal residents include dogs, foxes, and wolves. The dogs in the area have proven particularly resilient. Now, there are hundreds of stray dogs that are descendants of those once abandoned pets. The disaster's ecological effects, apart from the harm done to human life, are still largely unknown. Grassy plains and fields and flat bare ground are the kinds of terrain that are most seriously contaminated. Some 144,000 hectares of agricultural land and 492,000 hectares of forest have been withdrawn from normal use over a long period. Radionuclides concentrated in the sediment at the bottom of standing water are absorbed by animal and plant life. In the forest, radioactivity concentrates in tree bark, moss, and mushrooms, and in leaves and pine needles, which contaminate the ground. In some areas, it is forbidden to gather firewood. When burned, the wood contaminates ovens, and its ash useless fertilizer contaminates the ground. "3,500 workers are in the area, daily, to monitor radiation and continue the cleanup and maintenance of the reactor site. You can also visit the exclusion zone on guided tours. Many of these tours leave from Kiev, where guides are said to be trained to avoid hot spots. The tours are considered safe, since the exposure to radiation is minimal over a short amount of time. There is also a culture of young people in Kiev, known as stalkers, who sneak into the zone to take photos for the social networks. and others still have returned to their homes in an effort to preserve their way of life.
On tonight's video, we are going to watch the most cursed things caught on security cameras at 3 a.m. Holy crap! Clown stares creepily into a camera. Look at that!
Dude, that's so creepy, dude.
Do you have a Ring camera on your door?
No, I'm too poor for that.
Does anybody have a Ring camera on your door?
Look how he just stares at it, dude.
If I were to hear anything happening in front of my house and then I see this on my Ring
Hell
camera...
no, dude.
Where's he going? Holy crap!
It was a movement that started organically, out of pain and frustration. Calls for democracy and freedom in Cuba, unlike anything seen since the country's 62-year-old communist regime came to power. Calls spreading far and wide, led by a younger generation armed with something new: social media.
Do you think this movement could have happened without social media?
Not at all.
No.
Alejandro Gonzalez and Michael Rodriguez have become famous as Los Pichi Boys, two cousins turned social media sensation, with more than 500,000 followers who have been uploading videos to their Instagram account from users in Cuba so that the world can see what is happening, even when the Cuban government shut down the internet to keep images of protesters from getting out.
And the only thing that they have to defend themselves is the social medias. And they even cut internet so they can show out what is happening inside there.
This movement started on social media, and the young people from Cuba are tired of living under a communist regime where they don't have any future.
I mean, you all have really been doing the job of many reporters, getting information de la isla, from the island, to everyone here in this international community. Are you surprised by the level of feedback and engagement your social media posts have received?
Since the media and the press in Cuba is controlled by the state, they go out on the street in the morning, they do all the protests, they try to film most thing they can, and at 9, 2, 3, 4 in the morning, that's when they send us the videos, because that's when they have better signal. We go online every single day until 4, 5 in the morning talking to them, and yes, it's a big responsibility, but it's our duty. They made us famous, we need to make them free.
I went back to study and live in Cuba back when I was younger. And when you would talk to people, no one was public in their criticism. And so now to see people in the streets is something I could never have imagined after living there. Could you?
Yeah, never. No, never. I never, and you're saying that now, and I'm getting goosebumps. I always thought that Cuba was going to be free, but I never thought I was going to see it with my own eyes. And when we saw that on Sunday, we were in tears watching what was going on, because you can see an entire island rising up, chanting for freedom.
Those memories make you emotional.
Of course.
Why?
I'm a father. I have two kids, and I will give my life for them. And I don't know what's going to happen for me if I will see my kids like that.
That's why they're meeting with lawmakers to put pressure on the Biden administration, calling for change and a roadmap to help Cubans on the island achieve freedom. And they're not alone. Felice Gorordo co-founded Roots of Hope in Miami, and he says this generation and this movement calls for a new approach. His organization is raising funds and awareness to amplify the voices of young Cubans.
The young people who are the true agents of change are more empowered and more emboldened than ever before. And I truly believe this is the beginning of the end of this Cuban regime.
Why is the younger generation so important to this movement?
The ones leading this charge, and that to a great extent have sparked this movement, are our Afro-Cuban brothers and sisters. And they are artists that are using their art to inspire a new generation. They are not your typical politicians or activists. And I think it's our responsibility to help amplify those voices and make sure that they're not drowned out in this process.
And they say they're not stopping until everyone is free.
Hey, NBC News viewers, thanks for checking out our YouTube channel. Subscribe by clicking on that button down here and click on any of the videos over here to watch the latest
this fucking
interviews,
guy,
show
Lester
highlights,
Holt, really?
and digital exclusives.
Shut
Thanks for
up.
watching.
God. What's next? What are we going to play next? I got something for you. Hold on.
the biggest power that the government, the regime has against us is fear.
United Nations!
They can't hold the people down forever.
Pittsburgh, 2009. The U.S. pointed the finger at Iran.
Yesterday, the United States, the United Kingdom, and France presented detailed evidence to the IAEA demonstrating that the Islamic Republic of Iran has been building a covert uranium enrichment facility for several years.
This is Iran's leaders immediately suspected spies in their ranks. Orders were given to hunt down those who had disclosed nuclear secrets. In the process,
hey, just to be clear, I don't support or acknowledge or defend or any of these things. I'm just playing these things. That's all. It's off the dome. All these things are off the dome. Just checking it out, you know. Make up your own mind. I don't know.
Iranian intelligence came across an encrypted platform where CIA agents exchanged information.
The Iranians, who were also very active in Iraq, had somehow been able to compromise that system.
If Iran could crack the secret CIA messages, the lives of hundreds of agents would be in danger.
With supercomputer-generated cryptographic systems, you need a supercomputer to attack it.
China has some of the world's fastest supercomputers and good relations with Iran.
So it may be that the Iranians passed the intercept over to the Chinese. They processed it. They were able to decrypt it.
With the help of the decrypted messages, the Iranians exposed the ring of CIA agents. The discovery had unexpected consequences. Several from the CIA switched sides.
A number of important cases of CIA officers who were turned by the Chinese and were working for them.
Most damaging to the CIA was Jerry Lee's betrayal. From 2010, he helped Chinese intelligence unmask at least 20 CIA informants in the country. They were jailed or executed. In one case, the punishment was especially cruel.
Not only was the spy executed, but also his pregnant wife was executed as well. This was done on closed-circuit television so that the people in the ministry where he worked could witness the event.
China's intelligence operations range from extremely brutal to almost silent.
A former senior official in the NSA said that Russia is like a hurricane and China is like climate change.
I think that in the 2020s, we'll probably see the Chinese spying the heck out of us. On the other hand, we'll be spying the heck out of them.
In mid-2019, a Chechen man was crossing Berlin's Tiergarten Park. The man was living in Germany under a false name. Out of nowhere, a cyclist appeared, carrying a pistol with a silencer attached. The victim, Zalim Khan Khangoshvili, was shot 3 times. For years, he had fought against Russia as a militia leader in the Caucasus.
The victim had a really checkered history in the Chechen wars. After that, it was clear that Georgian intelligence had maybe recruited him isn't the right phrase, but he definitely cooperated with them. He was used for negotiations, for example.
In 2001, Khangoshvili joined the Chechnyan military resistance movement, which later became the Islamist Caucasus Emirate.
After an apparent attack on him was only narrowly stopped in Georgia, he went to Ukraine. His contact from the Georgian intelligence service is still working there today. That means Russia must have considered this man an enemy 2 or even 3 times over. That apparently put him on a Russian intelligence death list.
There are said to be as many as 20 targets on that list. Russia wants revenge. The suspect in the Khangoshvili killing is also suspected of a 2013 shooting that was caught on camera in Moscow. There, too, a bike was involved. The suspect is Vadim Krasikov, a former soldier.
Because of a lack of Russian cooperation on this issue, we've expelled 2 Russian embassy employees from the country.
But Vladimir Putin was unmoved.
Это боевик, причем очень жесткий и кровавый человек. Российская сторона неоднократно ставила.
The Russian side had repeatedly asked our German colleagues for the extradition of this bandit, this murderer. Unfortunately, there was no agreement on the issue.
The world of intelligence services can be brutal.
It also signals the extent of one's power to other nations. When it comes to achieving goals through lethal and military means, restraint has fallen away because the international community simply hasn't done enough to correct the situation. It's effective, so it's used with less and less restraint.
When the suspect went on trial in Berlin, Russia and its intelligence services were also on the dock. The accused denied everything, calling it a case of mistaken identity. Was the Park murder also a way of sending a message to Germany?
As intelligence agencies would see it, the act didn't really concern Germany. Like other states, they reserve the right to hunt anyone they deem a terrorist anywhere in the world, and if necessary, shoot them dead.
Traitors faced the same fate. Defector Sergei Skripal was poisoned in England.
These especially sensational cases take place according to time and opportunity. Think about it. If Mr. Skripal had lived in Berlin, there would have been another Tiergarten case. For years, Russian intelligence has had a policy of punishing traitors wherever they live.
It wasn't always that way. In the Cold War, spies like Rudolf Abel were exchanged for U.S. prisoners, often in Potsdam on the outskirts of Berlin, under the watchful eyes of the Stasi. But even then, murders also took place. In 1954, KGB defector Nikolai Khokhlov told Western media that he was ordered to poison a dissident in Germany using a poisoned dart from a cigarette case. Khokhlov's family was then sent to a labor camp.
As far as Western Europe was concerned, both superpowers turned away from Secret Service assassinations because many cases led to a huge public media outcry around the world, and they wanted to avoid that.
Cases like that of Georgy Markov were too sensational. The Bulgarian was murdered in London in 1978 using a poisoned bullet fired from an umbrella. The U.S. too plotted assassinations as revealed to Congress in 1975.
Have you brought with you some of those devices which would have enabled the CIA to use this poison for, we have indeed, for killing people? Don't point it at me. Does this pistol fire the dart?
Yes, it does, Mr. Chairman. It fires a small dart.
In the U.S., it was domestic scandals following Watergate that led to Secret Service assassinations being officially banned by the president.
Since 2002, the CIA seems to once again find any means justified. This is Mazuria in eastern Poland. Far from the capital, Warsaw, and near the border with Belarus, hidden in a forest is a Polish Secret Service facility. This is where the CIA has taken members of Al-Qaeda and other terrorism suspects. Once in Poland, they were tortured by CIA agents. Similar things have happened in Bagram in Afghanistan and Abu Ghraib prison in Iraq, where the torture included humiliation. In Poland, prisoners were interrogated using illegal methods as ordered by CIA leadership. Even today, the area is under tight security. Military police follow our camera team. We're filmed and our cars searched. In 2017, a civil lawsuit by inmates revealed the extent of CIA practices. Lawyers for a victim interviewed Jose Rodriguez, a former CIA covert operations officer.
Not a good start. Just so that the record is clear, the techniques for which you sought approval were the attention grasp, walling, facial hold, facial slap, cramped confinement, wall standing, stress positions, sleep deprivation, waterboard, use of diapers, insects, and mock burial. Now, I'm not asking what got approved. I'm asking whether those were the techniques for which you requested approval.
Yes.
Today is January 16th.
The CIA hired psychologist James E. Mitchell and paid his company $81 million to develop enhanced interrogation methods.
Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, at the request of Gibbons PC.
The first victim was Al-Qaeda member Abu Zubaydah.
Why was he waterboarded after he started cooperating?
You'd have to ask the CIA why they wanted to continue doing that.
Oh, well, I was the head of it, and my analysts were concerned that perhaps he was not compliant.
Abu Zubaydah was among those tortured for weeks in Poland. He lost an eye.
Were they there voluntarily?
They were not there voluntarily, but they could stop the interrogation if they agreed to comply.
The prisoners were later sent from Poland to Guantanamo Bay. There, too, the CIA and FBI used torture.
I was through 70 days of intensive torture. No sleep, sexual assault, beating, no medication, no food. I'm not allowed to go to the bathroom. I have to pee and do everything in my clothes. You know, because I was chained, and then they say either I beg them or I do in my clothes. And I chose to do in my clothes.
Former police officers were also involved in trying to get the prisoners to talk.
Lieutenant Richard Zuli, he is a police officer from Chicago. He gave me a letter. In that letter, it says that my mother would be kidnapped and put in a prison where there were only men. My heart dropped, and I knew at that moment that there was nothing to lose.
For several years, Mohammed al-Salahi had contact with al-Qaeda terrorists. He knew followers of Osama bin Laden. He also met students from the so-called Hamburg cell. Among the group were would-be terrorists, including Mohammed Atta and Ziad Jarrah. They were later tasked with quickly learning how to pilot a large plane. The pair were regular visitors to Steindamm, a main Hamburg street and home to a Salafist mosque, where they made friends with others, including Ramzi bin al-Shibh, who became the group's leader. Later in 2003, bin al-Shibh was tortured and interrogated for weeks and accused al-Sulahi of being the person who had told the 9/11 pilots how to get to Afghanistan.
We have some problems over here right now. We might have a hijack over here, two of them.
Is that American 11 trying to call?
We have some planes. Just stay quiet and you'll be okay. We're returning to the airport. If you try to make any move, you'll danger yourself and the airplane.
Another one just hit the building. Wow. Another one just hit it hard. Another one just hit the west side. The whole building just came apart. Holy smokes.
The attacks on New York and Washington left around 3,000 people dead and forever changed the United States. George W. Bush had been president for a few months. He called on the international community to fight a war on terror. There is universal support for the American people, sadness in their voice,